Sydney Catholic Schools is proud to present So You Want to Be a Professional Athlete. It's not every day we get to sit with the greatest wheelchair rugby player the world has ever seen. Making his debut at the Paralympic Games at just 15, he made history as the youngest ever wheelchair rugby player to compete at the highest level. He's no stranger to the podium either, having led Australia to consecutive Paralympic gold medals, won World Championship titles and even co-captained an entire Australian Paralympic team.
Please welcome to the studio Ryley Batt. I'm Tony Farley, Executive Director of Sydney Catholic Schools. With me today is our student co-host Rosie from Trinity Catholic College, Auburn. Ryley, thanks so much for joining us today. So let's dive right in. So Ryley, could you just run us through a typical day in the life of a professional athlete?
Yeah, for me, as a professional athlete, it's definitely a challenge. It's all about balance for me in my typical day. Being an athlete, it's trying to juggle family, it's trying to juggle work, it's trying to juggle training, obviously, your teammates, all those things. So for me, the typical day for me is waking up and knowing what your training is going to be for the day and fueling yourself accordingly. I like to start my day with a 3K sort of walk with the dog, just to get moving and get a bit active and I guess fired up a bit. And then training could be in the morning, could be in the afternoon, could be 2 sessions that day. So every day is different, but every day you're focusing on your training. You worry about what you're eating around training, when you're fueling your body and how you're going to pad out sort of those sessions with fuel and recovery and sleep. So, for me at the moment, I'm a bit in the off season, so it's more long distance, cardio related training, a lot of shoulder rehab, stability. So not the funnest stuff at the moment, but it chops and changes all the time depending on what phase we're in and what competitions we have coming up.
You've had incredible success. You're a wheelchair rugby legend. And you talked about the process and the work that you go through. What sort of attributes or strengths do you possess that you think have led you to where you are today?
Strengths. Yeah, I don't like to hear that. I just think I'm an everyday Joe Blow. But I guess I do have strengths in my sport, and that's why I am where I am. But I guess these days my strengths would be just how many years I've been playing. The experience for me gets me through. There's so many new athletes, fast athletes, powerful athletes coming through the ranks all over the world. And I know they've got me covered in all those departments, but I use my experience throughout the game and my smarts and just try to play, I guess, that play ahead of everyone just to get through. And it's worked out the last couple of years. My body hasn't been in tip-top shape. I've got a torn rotator cuff and I'm trying to get through with a lot of shoulder weakness, and obviously pushing a wheelchair rugby chair. They're 22 kilos. They're quite heavy, and it's a very explosive sport. It takes its toll on your shoulders. You need your shoulders to be in tip-top shape, and you need to be strong. So, for me, trying to be experienced and let these young whippersnappers who are stronger and more powerful run around you, but just try to be that diesel engine out there and that more experienced athlete who's not making many errors. That's what I'm trying to do these days, and that's, I guess, one of my strengths at the moment.
Ryley, have you reached the wily old veteran stage of your career?
You could say that. For many years, I was the youngest in the team. I started my Australian journey when I was 13 years old, and that's when I first represented the Australian Steelers wheelchair rugby team on the international stage. And my first Paralympic Games were as a 15-year-old. And for so many years, I was the youngest player on the team. And now I'm looking around, and I'm probably the third or fourth oldest in the squad. And I don't think like that, though. Like, I still feel like I'm young. I still feel energetic out there. To be honest, it's a really good team. We all have our different sort of attributes, and we're all comedians in our different ways. So we really get along as a team, and I don't feel my age. I'm 34 years old. Obviously not the oldest person out there, but I guess now playing for 21 years, my body's definitely handled some hard yards, and my body's definitely feeling old. But mentally, I'm still good.
You still look like a young whippersnapper.
Thanks,
Don't
mate.
worry about that. What's the best decision you've made in your career?
Best decision I've ever made in my career. Well, I don't want to go too deep into it yet, but for me, it would be the wheelchair was my kryptonite. I was born with my disability, what's type of limb deficiency, a type of deformity, very rare condition. And I despised people in wheelchairs for so many years. I used to get around on prosthetic legs or sit on a skateboard and get around the school oval. So seeing people in wheelchairs for me, I thought they were, they couldn't do anything for themselves. I thought they were just disabled and embarrassing. And I never wanted to be that person. I was completely wrong. So for me, when I eventually, as a 12-year-old, got into that wheelchair and then discovered wheelchair rugby, that was probably the best thing I ever done in my life, and the most proudest pivotal moment in my life. I guess just overcoming that kryptonite of the wheelchair.
What was it about the rugby that did it for you?
Look, you hear the words rugby, and what do you guys think? I think of physicality. I think of speed. I think of teammates, camaraderie, all those kind of things. And wheelchair rugby was a game that was invented over in Canada, so it's got a lot of ice hockey, gridiron, basketball rules all mixed in one. They called it wheelchair rugby because of the contact side of things. But us here in Australia, we're obviously used to rugby league, rugby union, where, rugby union obviously doing line-outs and scrums and, league 6 tackle sets, and you got positions and whatnot. So don't think of wheelchair rugby like rugby league or rugby union, because we don't do scrums, we don't do line-outs. It's more like a mixture of American sort of gridiron, basketball, ice hockey, all mixed in one. So you're allowed to check anyone off the ball, take them out of their wheelchairs, and that's actually encouraged, to be honest. Taking people out of their wheelchairs. If you knock a player out and they fall on you, it's actually a turnover. So for me, what attracted me to the sport is being able to just knock people out of wheelchairs and the brutality of it. I absolutely love it.
So it's rugby with the boring parts taken out.
Yeah, get rid of those scrums and all those penalties there. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've heard rugby at the moment described as a lawyer with a whistle.
I like that. Yeah, well, I'm hoping our sport doesn't go that way either. But it's definitely a good sport. I encourage everyone to check it out. It's fast paced. If you can watch it in the flesh, watch it live. It's we're hitting 27 kilometers an hour in these wheelchairs, and if the other person's doing the same, it's like a small car crash, and the noise itself scares a lot of people in the stands. So make sure you check it out.
It's intense. It's really intense, and it's fantastic. Let's just have a quick chat. You had a Catholic education. How did that feature, and how did that sort of guide your life?
Yeah, it definitely did. So I actually found the sport of wheelchair rugby through my primary school years. I went to St. Agnes Primary School in Port Macquarie, and grade 6, obviously most people remember that they had to put their sport electives in to choose their sport for the term. Now, I was away on a family vacation when we had to do that, so I missed out and got stuck with one of just whatever I was stuck with. And it was going to a local PCYC, and the 3 sports there were wheelchair rugby, table tennis and squash. And all 3 of them didn't interest me, to be honest. But I think the teachers sort of pushed me into the sport because of the wheelchair rugby, obviously having the disability at school and not wanting to be in a wheelchair. So I'm very, very thankful that my school pushed me, I guess, and not pushed me, but encouraged me to play wheelchair rugby when I didn't really want to do it. So that was my primary school. High school for me, I went to St. Paul's High School in Port Macquarie, and that's when sort of my wheelchair rugby career took shape. And they were really supportive of myself traveling the world and missing a lot of school because I'm at training camps and whatnot. So definitely had a great upbringing and went to some fantastic high schools Catholic high schools in Port Macquarie.
Big shout out to St. Paul's and the other schools that you went to, because balancing the priorities between sport and education, it's a tough thing, isn't it? And you were 15 when you were really starting to get into the big time.
Yeah, they did really well. Like, looking back on it now, obviously at the time you don't realise, being a 15-year-old, you're just obviously worried about yourself and getting away from school, I guess, and playing sport. That's what I wanted to do. But looking back now, they managed me really well and managed my schooling and my sport very well. So I'm very thankful, and it's really cool being able to go back to these schools and hand out awards. I know one of the high schools here, there's the Ryley Batt Award, and it's really cool to be looked upon in this local community as I guess an idol or an icon, and being able to grow up in those schools. It's something special.
Okay, Ryley, it's time for something we call the lightning round. Rosie here is going to fire quick questions to you, and the aim is to get through all of them within a 30-second time limit.
Oh, geez, that
Are
sounds
you
tough.
up for the challenge, Ryley?
No, that sounds tough, Rosie. You might stump me on a few of these, I think. I'm not the quickest at answering some of these questions, but I'll give it a crack.
I think you'll be okay.
What's a good number to get?
A good number.
I'm very
to get.
competitive.
It's the first time we've done this. There's about 9 here, 10 here.
All right, so 3 seconds a question.
3 seconds a question, yeah. Okay, are you ready?
No.
What did you want to be in primary school?
An X Games athlete.
What was your first job?
A sign writer.
What's one thing you can't start your morning without?
Who can't? Coffee.
The last thing you Googled?
Microsoft Authenticator app. Just did it.
What's your favourite book?
Grug. Picture book.
What's your favourite meal?
Sushi.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, 3 words. Competitive, genuine, adventurous.
Dog or cat person?
Dog.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
My last name's Bat, so being Batman.
What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Go travel. Around Australia, yeah.
Loving. I love travel. And if there's honestly one word I could describe you with, it'd be gallant. I think you're a very...
Gallant?
Yeah, I think you're a very stoic individual.
Stoic? Oh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Like,
All right, I remember...
I've watched you play, and I've watched parts of wheelchair rugby, and I just think it's really cool.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll keep that one for next time. Just in case I get asked some of those questions, describe myself in 3 words. I'll just use 1 word.
I've also got a few questions that I would like to ask you. What was your favourite subject, and how did this inspire you to become who you are today?
Of course, PD HPE was my favourite subject. I love being out and about at school and sort of just pushing my limits. Obviously, being grown up with a disability, a lot of people, think I can't do anything or thought I couldn't do anything. However, I learnt how to push my boundaries throughout my lifetime, and I think doing PDHD at school and going out in the oval and playing footy or cricket or soccer or whatever. Yeah, obviously I couldn't keep up with so many of my mates, but I gave it a crack and just pushed my boundaries and learnt more about myself.
Which elements of the PDHPA syllabus were most beneficial to your career? With you saying that it was one of your favourite subjects, could you remember any parts of it that really helped you and inspired you now?
Well, obviously going through high school, that was obviously one of my subjects. And just learning more about sort of nutrition, little bits of recovery. I sort of wanted to learn all that stuff because I was becoming an elite athlete, right? I was, representing Australia, I was representing New South Wales, and I learned a lot from the AIS and obviously our sporting team, and we had professionals in, but obviously doing it at school as well was really helpful for me.
In your childhood, was there much recognition for athletes with disabilities as there is now?
No, definitely not. That's one thing I'm very proud of. I'm very proud that the Paralympic sort of community and the Paralympic, spirit has just boosted so much over the 21 years I've been representing Australia. I remember competing at the Athens 2004 Paralympic Games where there used to be, highlights package on SBS for 30 minutes a day. No one really knew about the Paralympics. No one knew any of the athletes. And I think that's pretty bad because there's kids with disabilities out there, and kids with disabilities. I was one of those kids with disabilities, and I never had an idol. I never had a role model to look up to because I didn't know any athletes. I didn't know any people with disabilities because you never saw them on TV. They didn't have to be athletes. They could have just been any Joe Blow, politicians. They could have been movie stars, whatever. I never saw these people with disabilities doing these kind of things. So I never really had anyone to look up to. But now with the Paralympics sort of growing so much, the viewership in Tokyo was on par with the Olympics. These kids with disabilities, or even kids without disabilities, can see these role models, can see these Paralympians, and they can see what we can do with our disabilities and with our attributes. And for me, my whole goal in life has changed over the last probably 6-7 years. And obviously, my first lot of years I wanted to concentrate on winning and winning with the team and success. But now it's sort of flipped. obviously I want to win, but I obviously want to inspire a generation coming through as well. And I want to mentor kids, and I really enjoy it because there's so many kids out there now who idolize me. Like I was at a function the other day, a wheelchair AFL function, and I was next to Toby Green, who's an absolute icon in AFL in Australia. And the kids were coming up to me for a photo and autograph before Toby Green. And I don't like that personally because I'm a very modest person. But for me, that just meant a lot because kids are seeing people, other guys in wheelchairs and other girls in wheelchairs or disabilities in general as idols. And that's crucial.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's very great what you do. And especially because you said it before that you're now a leader for younger people, and that for the kids coming up through wheelchair rugby now, your influence is monumental for them. And with that, having competed in many arenas during your sporting career, what moments stood out to you the most?
Oh, geez, that's a tough one. There's been so many moments. I'm going to probably, you got me torn between two different moments. I'm going to say the Rio Paralympic final was probably my most memorable moment in a sort of an arena, and that was because it was absolutely sold out. 16,500 people in this packed out indoor stadium. 16,500 absolute crazy fans. Like, no wonder the Brazilian soccer team does so well. Their fans are crazy. They're so loud. They really get behind everyone. And we're playing America in the final, and I think they like the Aussies more than the Americans, and that was a great boost for us. So just the noise in that stadium. We went to double overtime in that game, and the sense of relief when we won that gold medal by 1 point, it was a nail biter. The crowd was absolutely crazy. Just looking around afterwards, because I thought that was my last Paralympic Games at the time, just looking around and just taking it all in, it was just a special, special moment in my life.
And lastly from me, do you have any goals or aspirations for your future?
Goals or aspirations for me in the future would be hopefully finishing my career in Paris with another gold medal. As a team sport, everyone who plays team sports knows how hard it is to win back-to-back in major tournaments. It's quite tough. So we won the 2012 Paralympic Games. We won the 2016 Paralympic Games. Unfortunately, we didn't do very well in Tokyo, but we want to redeem ourselves from Tokyo, because in Tokyo, we didn't really have a good run-in because Australia was so affected by COVID with the restrictions. I couldn't train with any of my teammates. We came into the comp not playing an international game in 18 months, and all these other countries had played international matches because their COVID restrictions weren't as bad as ours. So we want redemption. We want to win in Paris, and that's my goal, to help the team be the best we possibly can to win another Paralympic gold medal.
Ryley, just want to pick your brains for just two quick questions. And they're sort of advice, and I know you might be a little bit reluctant, but you've got a lot to offer. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I've received a lot of good advice in my life. I've met a lot of amazing people, a lot of very, very motivating people. For me, it's probably more recently. For me, what's sort of clicked in my head, maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, and that's, we can't control what's happened in the past. We can't control what's going to happen in the future. We can only control now. And I know we've heard a lot of that in our lives, but if you really let that sink in and try to, I guess, put that into your day-to-day life, it really works. It really, really works. So that's probably my best piece of advice I've received, that I can remember. There's a lot out there, but that one at the moment is probably hitting home the most. I've got an injury. I've got a shoulder injury, and if I'm worried about the Paris Games right now and absolutely belting myself, I'm going to injure myself more. I can't worry about my performance in the past with the shoulder injury. I can only control what I'm doing with that injury right now, and this training sessions that I have that day, and trust the process. And it's been working, so I'm going to keep on that path.
Do you have any advice for aspiring athletes?
Definitely. Short and sweet is my favourite motto in life, is anything's possible. And I've lived by that my whole life. Anything is possible.
Ryley, thanks so much for joining us today. It's an absolute honour to be talking to an authentic Australian sporting legend.
Oh, mate, thank you. It's an honour for me to be able to join your podcast. I think you guys are doing amazing things here, and privileged to be able to share some of my experience. And hopefully, I can come back with maybe a gold medal from Paris around my neck. What do you reckon?
We'll be following you all the way, and we know you're going to do it. So thanks so much.
Cheers, guys.
And thank you, Rosie, for a great job here today.
It's been great.
And please make sure to visit SES's social media channels, where we'll be giving you a sneak peek of what's in store for next time. To find out more about the opportunities Sydney Catholic Schools provides in sport, visit our website, which you can find in the show notes. God bless.